and I'm gonna read the I don't know whatever you would call it, that we're meeting electronically, and then Angela, I'd like for you to take roll, and then I'm going to ask Anthony to kind of cover the agenda, because we've got these public hearings, and then there's some things that we want to can take care of. But now that everybody's kind of on Zoom, maybe we can do that. I think we were thinking that if folks were calling in, or we're going to have difficulty joining the meeting, but anyway, and then we'll get to the public hearing. So due to public health concerns due to COVID-19, and is authorized by the Emergency Management Proclamation of the Governor of the State of Iowa, this meeting of the City Council will be conducted electronically pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.8, as holding the meeting in person is impossible or impractical. Interested persons may attend or participate in the meeting by the following methods, and there's joined by video conference, and there's a link there if you're online. Or number two, you can join by phone, and there's a phone number and a conference ID there. So with that, Angela, will you take the roll of the City Council?
Offerman?
Here.
Christensen?
Here.
Macedon?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Selby?
Here.
Okay, and Angela's on the line. Brittany from our finance officer is on the line. And I think I heard Paula join, our library director. So, and I know that there are others on the call. So before we go to the public hearings, Anthony, can you just kind of cover the agenda and see if there's anything that we maybe not be able to get to, or things that we might be able to pass on if we need to?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is Anthony. So we're kind of meeting in a time of, I guess, transition right now with the storm as of yesterday, and the city has still, I think, have some households out of power, or some businesses.
Hey, and I not you. You're gonna have to go on the porch or something.
Hey, Paula, I think you're not on mute.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, this is Anthony. So, we did have a major storm come through town yesterday. And so we do know that there are residents out there who don't have power or internet or phone lines, things like that. We've gotten some updates over the day, and it sounds like more people are getting back to normal, per se. Lots of tree limbs down and so on. But anyway, the agenda, it does have some public hearings and other items. And so we know that there may be folks that wanted to join the meeting tonight to participate in those public hearings. And talking with the mayor and talking with city attorney Christine Stone, we kind of came up with an approach where we can at least start the public hearings and keep them open by proposing another council meeting next week, either Monday or Tuesday, depending on the availability of the council, and then continue those hearings at that time, and hopefully more people will have access to the meeting next week. So the hearings will basically stay open if the council approves that. Those action items related to the hearings would happen next week. The rest of the agenda, it just depends on how the council wants to proceed. I would recommend that the consent agenda be approved. That includes bills, including the water treatment plant bill for the past month's worth of work. So that would be pretty important and critical to get done tonight. We have some department head updates. Those are informative, but not exactly time sensitive per se. Old business, we'll have kind of a note about that. Those basically are going to be deferred to a future meeting. And then under new business, besides the two public hearing items, the rest of the items, they could be deferred to, if we were to meet next week. There are some items about payments, annexation, accepting some projects. I would say that the critical ones would probably be the water revenue capital loan notes items. which are item I, J, and K. Those we'd want to stick to the plan to get those ready to go for our water projects. If you saw the Facebook and social media or your email or the city's website, our water system is in the forefront of the discussion today. So these kinds of items are timely in a way. So that's from staff's perspective, consent agenda, getting some of these water loan items done. That would be critical. But again, everything can be done or everything can be deferred to next week per se. But it's kind of all on the table. So it just depends on council's comfortability. It looks like we have enough people joining the call, but obviously not everybody can participate. So Mayor, that's kind of where we're at as of 6 o'clock right now.
Okay, and actually what Anthony just covered was what Anthony and I talked about. Obviously all the council members are able to be on Zoom, and a lot more of the public is than when I talked with Anthony this morning. So the conditions have kind of changed. Anthony just went ahead and presented just what we had talked about. And so, I see that we'll probably be able to, if the council wants to, take care of most all of the items on the agenda, except the old business, which Anthony will address. So with that, we'll go to the first items on the agenda, which is the public hearing. And the first one is proposal to convey real property to Elmwood Real Estate LLC. This is the sale of the city land in Kinnekeller Park to Restoration Harmony. So I would entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
I move we go into public hearing.
Second.
This is Rob.
This is Dan. I'll
Okay.
second that.
And Rob and Dan seconded. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macedon,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Okay, motion to go into public hearing passes. Before I ask if there's any written comments, and I know that there have been some written questions submitted. I wanted to ask staff and our city attorney, Christine, to kind of set up for those folks that are on the line that are interested in this, to give a really full background on how we arrived at this point. And this has been 2 years in the making, and there's been a lot of back and forth. And so I think it's important for the community and the public to understand the due diligence by the council to consider some of the concerns and questions that specifically the neighbors to Restoration Harmony had, and then some others in the public also. So with that, Christine and Anthony, I'll turn it over to you. I don't know if you've coordinated anything, but I know I've talked with both of you about providing the background information.
This is Christine. I'll jump in here, and I'm sorry I can't figure out why my video is not working this evening, but we will just move on anyway. So the mayor is correct. This has sort of been 2 years in the works. Dave and Angela Schrad purchased the building that sits on Kinnekeller Park about little over 2 years ago. That is sort of a unique situation where they purchased the building, but not any of the land underneath the building. That building has a lease for the property that's tied to it. So when they purchased the building, they came to the city and asked whether the city would be interested in conveying some of the land that is beneath the building. And the primary reason for that was so that they could make improvements and, really kind of fix up the building more than they already have. It was difficult for them to obtain financing for a building that they did not own the ground beneath the building. So that's sort of the background. We've been working with the Schrads over the last 2 years really to come up with how much land was the city comfortable conveying to them? What is fair market value for that land? And then what protections does the city want in place to go along with that sale? So we did prepare a purchase offer, which is essentially an agreement between the city and the Shrads, or their LLC. Elmwood Real Estate LLC is the entity that is purchasing the property. And there are some specific terms within that agreement. The purchase price for the property is $22,000, which that amount was determined by an appraisal, which the city had completed for the property. The Shrads are also paying the costs of the appraisal. They're paying the city's legal fees, and they are paying for the survey that was also required for the property. So it's $22,000 plus those additional expenses. And the property is being conveyed subject to some conditions. The city does have a right of first refusal on the property. So for a period of 20 years, if the Shrads receive an offer for the property, they have to notify the city about that, and the city has the opportunity to essentially match that offer. There are some easements that are being conveyed along with the property. One is an easement that benefits the adjacent property owners that abut right up to the property. So that is an access easement, which essentially says that those property owners have the right to cross the property to be able to access the park. There is a fence encroachment easement, which just deals with an existing fence that sort of is beyond the property line. There's a sanitary sewer easement, which allows the city to be able to access the sanitary sewer that runs through the property. And then there are some additional restrictions that benefit the city, specifically the property owners. If they wanted to remove any trees from the property, they would have to seek the city's permission to do that. And the same is true for if they wanted to install a fence on the property, they would have to seek the city's permission and approval to do that. All of these restrictions within the purchase agreement are for a length of time of 20 years. The reason for that is use restrictions and deed restrictions under the law are typically limited to a 21-year period. That's called the rule against perpetuities. It's this, the premise is that deed restrictions that go on forever are essentially a bad thing, and we want people to be able to use their property the way that they want to. The way that the city can deal with that is when we're getting up to that 20-year term, the city can seek to renew these restrictions. So that is something that the city would have to do, but that is definitely an option to make sure that those continue on into the future. That is essentially a summary of the document. There has been a lot of back and forth on this. The folks who own the building, they're in agreement with these terms. The city is required to hold a public hearing prior to approving the actual purchase agreement. I know there were some questions raised regarding whether the city is required to take bids on the property. That is not a legal requirement when a city is selling property. In some cases, cities will do that, but in this circumstance, you are not required to. And it also doesn't make a whole lot of sense because they own the building that's on this property. So if someone else were to submit a bid, then they would own land that's under somebody else's building. So this is a little bit of a unique situation, but that's the summary, and I'm happy to address any questions.
Well, yeah, this is the mayor. And I know one of the questions I received, this is before we open it up to the public, who selected the appraiser?
The city engaged the appraiser. I don't believe I was involved in that selection process.
Okay.
So maybe Anthony knows. who selected that particular person?
Yeah, thanks, Christine. This is Anthony. The city used an appraiser that we've used on several other transactions for city property. I believe it was Michael Olson or Olson and Associates. So we used that appraiser on when we sold the land by the Fuller's gas station on Old Portland Road, and also on the land by the bike trail over there by the new daycare center by Patrick's, that location. So they had done a couple of appraisals for us, and so we used them again.
Okay. Well, before I entertain comments from the public, does the council have any questions or clarifications now? I'll just give you the opportunity, and of course, and my desire is for this public hearing not to close. So I would, if there's anything that Christine covered that you want clarified before we entertain comments from the public, I would give you that opportunity.
Hi, Mayor, this is Dan. My understanding at one point when we were talking about with the Strads, the purchase of the land under the building it wasn't just for financing purposes, but for also insurability. So they had talked about there had to be a certain amount of land under the building to appropriately insure it if it were to burn down or if it were to be destroyed or impacted. And so not just for financing reasons, but they also had insurability reasons. And Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't hear you mention that earlier, so I just wanted to see if that was in play as well.
That is correct. One of the sort of preliminary discussions we had with them was making sure that the lot would be considered a compliant lot under the city's zoning code, which would mean, yes, if the building was destroyed, they would have the ability to rebuild in that case.
Any other questions by the council members?
Mr. Mayor, this is Rob. Just as a clarification from either Christine or Anthony, the amount of property that we have is based is a maximum based upon, or is it the minimum amount to be able to fulfill the need for insurance and being code compliant and those kinds of things. We're not selling any additional property beyond what is the bare minimum requirements for those things, correct?
That's not correct. We are conveying more than the bare minimum lot size. That was something that was discussed, a while, maybe a year ago. If you recall, there were a couple of different lot layouts that came to council back in, I think it was September of 2019. And the one that council sort of authorized staff to move forward on with the appraisal and the survey was a little bit larger, but we felt like that sort of configuration made sense with the neighboring property lines and some of those types of things.
Yes.
And if I remember right, sorry, this is Dan again, if I remember right, that had to do also with parking and the amount of parking that they would have as part of their building compared to the size of the building. And so there's a certain recommendation for how much parking you have for the size of your building. And since the parking lot that we are not selling to them is still city owned, they can never say this is our parking only. And so I think that there was a spot in front of the building that they wanted as well that we kind of added to, if I'm correct.
Okay. Any other comments by the council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is Jody. I do have a couple of questions that maybe Christine or Anthony could answer.
Sure.
Was there going to be a zoning change as well?
Yes, so once the real estate transaction is approved, the plan is to bring this forward for a rezoning consideration. The zoning district that we've sort of discussed, based on the current use of the property, is I think it's C2. And so that's sort of been the regulations that we've been discussing with the Shrads over the last few years, but we didn't think it made sense to move forward with the zoning until, we knew for sure that this was going through.
And so help me remember so I don't, because I haven't had time to really look this up. On C2, what types of businesses then could go into that area? Like restaurants, or I mean, what type of, just so that we know for the future, if the Shreds decide to sell it in 60 days or 90 days to another entity, I would assume all of these conveyances carry over to a new owner. So what types of businesses could go in there then if it's not Restoration Harmony?
That is true. So the terms of the sale, all the easements and the deed restrictions and things like that do attach to the property. So they would flow through to any subsequent purchaser. And remember, the city also has the opportunity to match any subsequent offers on the property. I just pulled up the city code here. So on the C2 permitted use lists, it includes offices and clinics, all uses that are permitted in the C1, which, let me go back up there. So the C1 includes grocery stores, confectionery stores, dairy stores, bakeries, drugstores, beauty shops, tailor shop, shoe repair, laundry or dry cleaning. It does say eating places, drive-in or carry out. Let's see, hardware stores, sporting goods stores, bookstores, jewelry stores, florist. It's quite a big list.
Okay. So it's not just, I just want to understand that it's not just the fraud. It could be anybody that takes ownership of that property. I think it's pretty realistic that once the city sells that property, even though we have first right of refusal, we won't buy it back. We aren't going to buy it back. So it could go, I mean, I want to make sure we all realize it could turn into something much different than what it is right now.
And it is possible, through the rezoning process, the city does have the option to do a conditional rezoning, which would limit the types of uses that would be allowed at the property. We have sort of discussed that with the Shreds over the last 2 years. So that is something, if the city feels like it wants some additional protections and restrictions in place, that could take place through the rezoning process.
Also, Jody, and when you say much different, obviously it was described what types of businesses could go in there by Christine, but the types of businesses that would want to go in there, would seem to be that type of business that sells to baseball players and people that are at the park, maybe a little ice cream shop or something like that. So when you say a much different type of business can go in there, I'm wondering what's the most negative type of business that could go in there. I would like to consider that if that's what you're kind of implying.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just depends on what do we want. It's a park, it's a park right smack in the middle of a residential area. What do we want to open it up to? This is where we're making the decision right now on what we want to open that up to. We're the gatekeepers, and you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once you've done it. So I just want us to realize.
I think this is a public portion of this, but I would tend to disagree with you that things can change in the future. They do change. Zoning changes. We can put some restrictions on, but let's open this up, in my opinion, to the public. This is their hearing, not ours.
Yeah, good points, Jody. This is the mayor. Good points. Did you have any other questions, or did anyone else?
No, I don't.
Okay.
And sorry, this is Christine. I did neglect one additional provision in the purchase agreement. It does say that the property has to be maintained in such a way to maintain the feel of the park. So they can't, alter the feel of the property. It has to remain, consistent with the neighboring park property, essentially.
So, okay, yeah, good point, Christine. Okay, well, I wanted to entertain any questions or comments from the council, just to get some clarification on what Christine presented. And that might address some questions that the public might have, but it might offer more questions. And the nice thing about this is that we're gonna essentially have a halftime, because this public hearing is not going to close. So we'll entertain the public comments. There could be some takeaways that we bring back some more answers or clarification. And so I guess that's maybe the benefit of continuing this. With that said, this is Mayor Peters. I'm going to open it up to the public. And those of you that are on the line, if you're on Zoom or if you're on the phone, I don't know if we have you muted, but what is it, Rob? What is it to mute? You can star something to mute and star something to unmute.
We have not muted anybody on the
Okay.
phone, but it's *6 if you've muted yourself.
Okay. So if anyone wants to speak, please unmute yourself, state your name and your address, and then your question or your comment. Is somebody on mute, or are you going to wait till the next meeting?
Has anybody got in yet?
No. Tim?
Are you guys able to hear me? Okay,
Yes.
yeah, this is Tim Miracle, 436 North 11th Street Place. Yeah, you brought up some other things, and if we're above the minimum, because one of the big things that they are supposedly promoting is the feel of the park. And I mean, it seems like we've had to do a lot of stipulations and things, and a couple things haven't really been totally understanding to me yet. One was the variance of giving him enough ground to be able to still build back without giving him all that ground. But the other thing, like you and I talked the other day, was if we want to save the park feel, the only way to guarantee that this will never change in the park area, because we know if you want him to have his own parking lot, if it gets built there, it's going to be open to the public, no matter which side we go on. So why don't we go back to the parking lot and the ground in front for parking, and just do one easement to your garage if you guys think you need to save that garage? I mean, that would simplify all the wording. And then the only thing that could happen there is to make that view better. I mean, you can't make that any worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then we guarantee that the park feel and the rest of it will, never go away. Because, I totally agree with the others that we know things can change after the fact.
Okay. So why don't we go over to the parking lot? Why didn't we go east and then grant whatever variance was necessary to allow the Sherrods to purchase enough property to be able to rebuild and be compliant? So
Yeah, because we could bend the rules a little bit. I mean, I thought that's what variances was for, to bend your building a little bit so somebody could fit something in on what they have if they're kind of restricted a little bit.
mm-hmm. Okay. Do you have any other comments, Tim?
Yeah, does the maintenance switch over to him, or does the park still gonna mow and take care of the trees and things?
Well, I remember oh, Anthony, why don't you go ahead and take that?
Yeah, this is Anthony. This item did come up, and we don't have it specifically in this agreement, but city staff did talk with the Shrods about possibly the city maintaining this area since it was already right there with the park. So we hadn't come up with an agreement per se on that, but it had been discussed about possibly us, the city, just doing it to keep it uniform with the area at large. So no formal agreement yet.
And the Shrods would reimburse us. That it'd be like a contract.
So they would pay you the like man hours or whatever and maintenance fees for taking care of that.
Yes. I mean, that's the deal that we would strike if the Shrods wanted to engage the city on the maintenance, basically the mowing.
Correct. Well, if they had that parking lot over there, they wouldn't have to pay you anything.
Okay. Any other comments, Tim?
No, well, the only other one that I don't think got answered is why, or anyway, it's my understanding that nobody had even talked to the Board of Adjustments ahead of time to see if there was any chance of them agreeing to, limit the ground a little bit shorter, give them access around the back, and then, all that ground in front to go with it, and let them still be able to build back on that. It sounds like nobody even approached them to start with, and I was just kind of curious why that wasn't an option also.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I've made a note of a couple things. I'm gonna put Christine on the spot and maybe she addressed it, but she could reiterate it. About why above the minimum. I think she talked about that the council considered different plats and we came up with this one. And then the other is about the Board of Adjustment, or actually going to the east. And I think again, what I heard from you, Tim, is that why didn't you sell the property from the east? And if you want that garage so bad, that just get an easement to access the garage. That way you're not giving up that space.
Yeah, that would be correct. That is one of the options I was kind of curious. It seems like it would simplify the whole agreement.
Mm-hmm.
This is, Yep, this is Christine. So I think the garage issue was primarily why city staff wasn't in favor of conveying the property on the other side. They wanted to have access to the garage. The city wanted to keep the parking lot. So that was really the reason behind it. In terms of Board of Adjustment, so the Board of Adjustment is a sort of quasi-judicial board. Their decisions are directly appealable to the district court, and they're not really an appropriate body for you to take, hypothetical questions to. The city certainly could have said, well, we're only going to sell you the land under the building, and then you're going to have to go to Board of Adjustment and see, what sort of variances you can get. But even then, that would be a non-compliant lot under the zoning code, and the Board of Adjustment has no way to sort of make a non-complying lot complying. That's a special status, and if anything were to happen, to the building under certain conditions, they would not have been able to rebuild. And so that's really why, it was more than just the dirt under the building we were talking about, and why we didn't take it to Board of Adjustment sort of on the front end. If that was going to happen, it would have been more appropriate to do that after the sale of property had occurred.
And then, yeah, I think, and then your third, or the third note I have down here, Tim, not in that order, but, you know, why more than the minimum? And I think Christine talked about the council looking at this. Of course, it's been over a 2-year period, and actually, I forget who was on the council at the time, but we arrived at this, and I think she said it kind of lines up. You know, if you look at the survey, the plat or the survey, it goes over to your neighbors there where Bub and Shirley Button used to live, and butts up against Kathy and Mark Jorgensen. So it goes up to there, and that's what the council decided at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tim, any other questions or comments at this time?
Most of it was, I think, I had some earlier today, but by the time I got to writing them down, I lost it. But some of the other stuff, and like I said, hopefully when we get power back up and I can get back into my computer, there may have been something in the email or something that would jog my memory that I forgot. But since they're going to keep the public hearing open for a little bit, at least I'll have a chance to get back in there later when we get power.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
if I have something, I'll shoot Anthony or somebody a question on it.
Yes. Yeah. Please do that. Okay. Thank you, Tim. Are there others on the line that wanted to speak at the public hearing? This would be the opportunity to do so. All you need to do is make sure that your line is unmuted, and you can just identify yourself by name and your address. Okay. I didn't really ask when we started this. We're going to keep the public hearing open, but did we receive any written comments besides those from Kathy Jorgensen and Tim Miracle? They provided some questions earlier, and that was part of what Christine was addressing, and that's why I had the dialogue with the council members before we began to hear comments from the public. So it seems like do you know, Anthony, did we receive any other written comments or questions?
This is Anthony. I didn't see any other written comments that we received.
Mr. Mayor, Bob,
Yeah.
I forwarded a email to you and Anthony late this afternoon that the council members all received from the owner of the bed and breakfast in favor of allowing this purchase.
Thank you, Bob. I was just going to mention I forwarded that as well.
Okay.
Your email inbox is going to be full, Mayor.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. The folks from the Big Blue, who have worked with Dave and Angela, did provide an email of support. I haven't read it. It's a couple of paragraphs, maybe 150 words or 100 words or something like that, I would imagine. So we would introduce that as part of the public record. And then we did receive an email from Deloria with the calculation, wondering about the price, how we arrived at the price. Wasn't that to all the council members? That was one of the first emails that we received. And so I think we've addressed that, how we arrived at the price, which was different than his calculation. But I think we can, the appraisal is part of the public record. And so, Anthony, we could probably at least put that out as, the survey is part of this public record. And if Mr. Deloria follows up, we can forward that appraisal to him.
Yeah, this is Anthony. We can have that appraisal. We can either put it on the website or we can include it in the council packet for the following, the next meeting that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, well, if there's no other comments right now for the public, if you're, maybe the conversation prompted some questions, or Tim, as you say, when you get your power back, you can get in there, and we certainly would, any more questions or comments that you have, please send them our way. Anybody else that's on the line, if you have questions or comments based on the comments that you've heard and the presentation that the city staff made, please do that as well. So, Christine, from a parliamentary standpoint, do we need to do anything to continue this public hearing?
Well, to be able to use the prior published notice, you need to announce the date and time at which the public hearing is being continued to.
Before we end this meeting?
Yes.
Before we end this meeting. Okay, well, let's go ahead and take care of the business, and then there may be some other things that we need to, tend to that would require another meeting. So,
Mayor, would there be any reason to hear from the Shreds right now as well?
well, I talked to David this afternoon, and
Okay.
He knows what the purchase agreement says, and I talked to him about the trees. He goes, well, you have control over the trees and control over the being able to expand or build and all that. So he's looking for the financing. So I did talk with Anthony. Talked with him as well. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'm here. This is Angela.
Oh, hi, Angela.
So I want to say to everyone that's online, Dave and I have, it feels like I should invite everybody to Christmas dinner from the city council, because we've talked, but I have absolute trust and for the from the last 2.5 years that we've really worked to make a plan that's good for the community. And I think if anybody had questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those. But everything just makes it feel right for Dave and I with everything that you guys have proposed. And there isn't a chance that other than some trees that we just lost in damage, which makes me very, very sad, will ever go down. We're not building anything there. We're not having it, we're not building housing developments. We're not doing any of those things that might be a concern. But I'm totally welcome to answer any questions that you guys might have. And Dave and I have, done over 100 properties and several houses, and we want to maintain something that's awesome for Adel. So if you have questions for us, you're happy to reach out via email or whenever you feel it's appropriate. So I hope that helps.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Angela. So, okay. So I think that concludes everything right now for item number 1 under public hearing, and public hearing will remain open. We'll set a time and a date to continue this at the end of our meeting. Okay, so still under public hearing, item 2, proposal to lease property to Satellite Center LLC. This is for the South Water Tower wireless internet. And so I entertain a motion to go into public hearing. Oh, yeah, we didn't go out of the other public hearing, so motion to go into public hearing.
This is Rob, so moved.
Second.
Okay, second by Bob Ackerman. Okay, yeah, if somebody could do what, star 6 to mute? We're hearing some background. Thank you. Okay, then if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Macadon, Yes. Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Okay, motion to go into public hearing passes. Anthony, have we received any written comments?
That's same here, I think.
This is Anthony. We have not received any written comments.
Okay. So I would go ahead and open this public hearing to anyone that wants to speak to the proposed lease to Satellite Center on our South Water Tower. And if you would, just unmute yourself, state your name and your address and your comment. Okay, I'm not hearing anybody that wants to comment on this. And seeing that, we haven't had any written comments. City Hall has not been contacted about it. So seeing that, I think it'd be in order to entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
This
This is
Bob.
Rob. Rob second.
Okay, Bob and Rob, first and second. Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macedon.
Yes.
Okay, motion to go out of public hearing passes. Now we're on to comments from the public. This would be the opportunity for anyone on the line to bring anything to the council that's not already on the agenda. And if you have something, please *6 to unmute and state your name and your address and what you'd like to bring to the council.
Were you on it?
Hello?
Were you listening?
Does somebody have a comment? Okay, well then, seeing then, we'll go on to the consent agenda. And everyone's had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. And
I'd move we approve the consent agenda. This Bob.
This is Dan. I'll second that.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion?
The only question I have is for Anthony. For the block party, we have shared with that group our rules for food trucks.
This is Angela, and I did have that discussion with the requester.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, as long as we're on that, item H, I noticed the traffic flow from Lynn Drive. That's a major thoroughfare to get out to the highway for a lot of people that live in the part of town that some of us live in, and I know it's labeled a Lynn Drive block party, but it seemed like that North-South Street would, that's between the curb up there, would better accommodate traffic flow, because folks that are going to be coming off the highway wanting to get over to Adel Estates or any of the other developments will have to come in, and instead of taking that left jog and coming up Lynn Drive and being able to go. So I don't know if that was thought about, and I didn't have a chance to talk with the chief about it, but that's just an observation that I was making on that. Was this for a Saturday night? From was it quite a few hours?
Yeah, I believe this is Angela. I believe their setup was to begin at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
and go through the night. I think the end of the party was going to be at 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm. that would be really my, just as I was reviewing it, it's like, wow. That's pages 75 through 83, I think.
Yeah, if they could do it on that 10th Street stretch, I bet there's a lot less traffic there. However, there is the bypass, like if you go up 8th and then over on Evans View Drive and then come back down, and then you could do that. I mean, there's still an opportunity to get through that section if you want to go
Yeah,
a little
there
further
is.
north. Yeah.
Well, anyway, that was my only observation. It's part of the consent agenda. There's been a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. If somebody wanted to pull that out, they could. I'm not going to. Okay, well, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on the motion.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macedon,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, motion to adopt and approve the consent agenda passes. Department head report. Anthony, you want to quickly cover a couple of things here?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. This is Anthony. So department head report, we've got 2 items. One is just our unfortunately very routine COVID-19 operational updates and city efforts. We've got a whole web page on our website devoted to that. We try to keep that updated. It's not changed very often the past few months. The governor has issued a couple proclamations, but mostly they're just continuing kind of everything existing and like social distancing and so on. So we've tried to keep that up to date. One thing that we keep watching are just city halls and what the metro is doing, and I've tried to provide some information to kind of our informal subcommittee on this with the mayor and Bob and Jody, and it was interesting because in July, mid-July, probably my list that I'm tracking was about half the city halls were open and half were closed. And I think it was last week, maybe on Thursday, when I looked again, which I try to look at every week or so, only 2 were open that I was tracking. And I think there's different metrics that are out there, but the ones that I'm watching they've just been pretty much the same from July to August now. So that is interesting. I know Des Moines has kind of pushed theirs out to October. Others don't really have a date. We've heard of some instances of city hall staff in other cities who've contracted COVID, or at least their families or friends. So more and more at city hall, we just keep hearing about, I heard that so-and-so, or I know that my friend said that his friend has it, or my family members heard that so-and-so has. So it just seems to be touching more and more people, or at least people are getting tested, and so that they're getting more results. So that is something we're just staying on top of, trying to understand that as best we can. I think the regulations and the guidance seem to change every so often. So it's something that's ever present, unfortunately for us, but we'll keep updated as we can. So that is my kind of COVID update for the month. Then the other item on the department head report is just about the 2020 census, and it has been kind of impacted by COVID-19. So in some ways they are related. But the city's been hovering around a 75% self-response rate for a few months, I think maybe May. So we've just really plateaued. In 2010, our self-response rate was around 77%, and that's the rate that basically everybody returns their census before the door knockers come out to try to get up to 100. So we're still kind of stuck. I've tried to reach out to the Census Bureau. They've had some different efforts. We've contacted the church group, or at least a pastor that can reach out to the churches. We've reached out to the school and tried to reach out to some of the civic clubs, or at least just anybody that is able to spread the word to respond accordingly. And so the census contact suggested that we take 20 minutes tonight to call 20 contacts in our phone for the 2020 census. And I'm not going to suggest that, but if you do see folks out when they're out and about, just politely ask them, have you filled out your census yet? And hopefully they have. There's many ways to do it over the internet or by phone. The door knockers will come, and it sounds like a horror movie, but they will be out here. They might already be out here right now. And we just want to avoid that because that is the hardest part of it, trying to get that last 25%. So hopefully we can hit 5,000 people. We'll have some a bigger, healthier rep budget. We'll have some access to some other grant funds. The population estimate in, I think, the State of Iowa Library Association was like 5,400 for the city of Adel right now. So I'm cautiously optimistic we'll reach 5,000, but we'll see. So appreciate your help on this, and we'll keep going. But that's all I've got on department head side. I think maybe we were going to mention finance with COVID, and I forgot to do that in my COVID update. But I think for the most part, everything's been fairly stable on the revenue side for the fiscal year. I think the expense side was a bit changed. I don't know if Brittany's on the line. If you have any notes on that, Brittany, feel free to chime in. If not, we'll try to recap maybe next week at that other council meeting.
I would say that given some of this is Brittany, the expenses were a little off, just given, like, say for like Parks and Rec especially, a lot of their programs did not happen. So while we saved expenses this fiscal year, but then we did end up seeing them probably more so in like July, especially for like the pool, when we did finally decide to open. So expenses that would have typically hit like late in the fiscal year didn't hit until July. So we did see some variables, I would say mainly in the Parks and Rec department areas, where we just weren't sure if seasons were going to happen or if the pool was going to open. So that's where I saw the main variables compared to other years.
Anthony, is Kip on tonight?
No, I talked to Kip earlier, and he's put in a couple long days, and he's supposed to go on vacation tomorrow.
He's been playing in the water. Did they get the water main fixed yet, or is that still ongoing?
Yes, this is Anthony. They did fix it. I think it was around 4:45 or so that Jordan gave me a call. He's our water superintendent. So they had battled that water main break over there by the bowling alley for most of the day. They got that fixed. Jordan said that they're recharging the water system right now, which is going to take some time. That's so he did say there could be areas in town with low pressure or no water. There might be some areas with discoloration of the water until that system gets quote unquote recharged with water. And then as you may have seen, we are in a boil advisory right now. We've been working with the DNR about that, trying to get that message out. Jordan said he got a lot of phone calls, and so I think the message mostly is out there. The DNR is going to try to reach some other media outlets to make sure that maybe the nightly news has it on. The boil advisory, we did have one in 2014 that we were in, and the main timeline there is just the testing. Once we kind of get back to normal, then we have to do a test and try to make sure that nothing is amiss. And so that's kind of our ticket out of the boil advisory. And I think in 2014 we had to wait a little bit on that. Maybe it took a week or a week and a half. So that's something we'll be watching. We're hoping maybe we'll get to do those tests later this week, but it's just going to be dependent upon the system. And so it was a perfect storm, unfortunately, with everything that happened. But we're working on it, and like the mayor said, they've been working on it all day and yesterday and last night too. So I appreciate that.
And just in case everybody doesn't realize it, we were on Xenia Water for what, 24 or 36 hours?
Yeah, I think we switched on. I want to say yesterday afternoon, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock, and we were in contact with DNR about that. With the storm and the electrical outage, the water treatment plant did not have power, and we also lost power to our high zone booster station, which is on South 14th Street. And so what's really tough about it is if this would have happened next time this year, our new water treatment plant will have a backup generator. And so we would have been sailing pretty well on that. Our wells have generators, so those were fine, but the water treatment plant wasn't able to push that water out. And as the towers, kind of gravity fed the system as they were depleted, that's when we started talking with Xenia and DNR about turning on our emergency connection. And so we did that. So basically the entire system was being fed by Xenia since about yesterday afternoon. And because that is we designed it to feed the high zone, which is kind of in the south portion of town, but it was kind of back feeding up to the north zone. And that's kind of, I think, where that water main break occurred. It was just kind of going the wrong way in a way. And so, but luckily they got it under control this afternoon. And, I don't know if once the system recharges that we'll probably be able to stop the Xenia connection. But it's not what we wanted to see after the storm. So.
Anthony, this is Rob, and maybe Gary, if you don't know, maybe Gary knows. Is the new generator, is that going to be diesel or is it natural gas powered?
This is Gary with McClure Engineering. The generator is actually a diesel generator, and it was selected as such because of the fact that when you have natural events that occur, oftentimes pressurized gas services cease or may be ceased in certain instances. And so because of that, we typically shy away, and DNR requirements don't necessarily allow for natural gas as the fuel source for emergency generation. You typically see diesel, and sometimes you'll also see propane, but we selected diesel in this case.
Okay, thanks, Gary. Just a note for the city. Make sure whoever our supplier of diesel is, you keep that agreement up to date and that we have an emergency supplier for diesel fuel. We learned this in the building that my office is in today. So diesel generator ran out of diesel and we didn't have an updated agreement with the supplier. So we had to wait for diesel fuel to arrive.
Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, then Anthony, we'll move on to old business. I think you got some comments about these.
This is Anthony. So old business, we have items A and B, which are the resolutions to designate the low bidder on the wastewater treatment plant project, and item B is to award that project. And we had deferred these from the last meeting on July 27th because we had the bid opening on July 21st. We were waiting on review from McClure Engineering as well as Allers and Cooney, and then USDA Rural Development. So we completed our portion of that review after we deferred the action on the 27th. However, USDA was working through that review on their end, and they found which we knew about, but they notified us on a financing gap, which is a relatively small amount comparative to the project. It's obviously in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, but it's not. I want to say it's 500 or 700,000. Gary might be able to speak to that, but basically, before USDA can concur with the low bid designation as well as the award and ultimately the approval, of the contract, they need to know where that money is coming from to finance that gap. And so we've been talking with USDA about the next steps there. There's some options, maybe some more grant funds, possibly some more loan funds. So we have more work to do on that. They want some updated financials on our end. And so we've been coordinating with McClure and with PFM, our financial advisor. But USDA was not in a position today to concur with these items. And so, Gary, if you are on, I would just ask, this would probably be better suited. Would we defer it to the meeting next week, or probably like the September 8th council meeting, that first meeting in September?
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. This is Gary Bruns of McClure Engineering. I have been in contact with Randy Campbell at USDA Rural Development, the local field office, as well as John Burmeister with PFM. I would anticipate that they likely wouldn't have the additional underwriting completed in time for a council meeting, say early next week. I think it's probably safest that it would move to the regularly scheduled September council meeting. That's probably more likely at this particular time. So.
And Gary, this is Anthony again. Just to clarify, the bids that we received on July 21st, the contractor has to hold that for like 60 days or something. So we're still within that time period, but or maybe 90 days. Is that right?
Correct. I'd have to go back and double check, and I forgot to do that before this evening's meeting, but my recollection is it was at least 60, and I think it was actually 90. We have been in contact as well with the low bidder. They're aware of the situation. I notified them that the likely council action tonight would be to defer this. My assumption is that even if we extended past that 60 days, they would likely hold their bid. But that's, of course, something that we would have to go down if that route was necessary. And based off the conversations with USDA, I think we will be within that 60-day window, or that minimum 60-day window.
Okay, is that it, Anthony? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So, we'll defer these until I just looking September 8th city council meeting, which is the day after Labor Day.
And Mayor, I think the resolutions actually have a checkbox to approve them, but basically to approve them to be deferred to the September 8th meeting at 6 p.m. So we'd have to make that motion and approve them in that manner.
Okay, that must be on, on page 116. So we would entertain a motion. I'd entertain a motion to, this would be for resolution 2069, designating the low bidder. And so I'd entertain a motion to designate the low bidder. And if you're looking on page 116, it would be and then it would defer action on the resolution to the proposal to the meeting held at 6 p.m. on the 8th day of September 2020. So,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
could we also do resolution 2070, defer it also in one motion?
Well, 2070. Was I looking at 2070? Where's 26? Where's 2069? I thought I had it on. Oh, I gotta go to page.
Yeah, 2069 and 2070, both the same problem.
I had advanced to our new business numbers there. Yeah, page 92 is 2069, and page 103 is 2070. If there's no objection, I would entertain a motion to approve both of these with the designation of September 8th, 6 PM.
This is Bob, I so moved.
Okay.
I'll second that. This is Dan.
Okay. Dan seconded. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McAdon,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Okay, motion to approve resolutions 2069 and 2070 and deferring action to the next regular council meeting passes. Okay, now we're under new business and item A, we'll defer action on that. That's resolution 2071 because our public hearing is still open. So we'll move on to consider approval of resolution 2072. This is on page 114. Approving and authorizing the lease of real property to the Satellite Center LLC, and we've had our public hearing on that, so I'd entertain a motion to approve.
This is Rob, so moved.
This is Dan. I'll second that.
Okay, and if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McAdon,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve resolution 2072 passes. Still under new business item C. Discuss some possible action on HRTA.'s 2021 funding request for $7,000. It's on page 120. Any background on this? Anthony?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mayor. This is Anthony. So as you recall, the council received this request back during the budget process in maybe January, February, March of this year. And it was for basically $2 per capita. And at that time, we were using our 2010 census figure. So I think the total was $7,364. And HRTA had, in the packet, we have the letter that they sent back in January, it looks like, for that request. And so the council had discussed this at that time, and we included it in our fiscal year 2021 budget. But there was kind of a discussion on when to allocate that or appropriate it. And there was discussion about requiring some financial documents to be in place or be available to the city to review. And those included things like their maybe a 1 or 2 or 3 budgets that they've done or will do, as well as several audits. And so HRTA provided that detail. We had that in a separate email to the council. Just given the length of the documents, we didn't include that in the packet, but they are available for public if anyone would like that. In the packet, we did include their fiscal year or 2021 and beyond business plan, which they did do for this calendar year. And so the request, the money is budgeted. We included that in the budget. So this item is just to discuss if council is in agreement to allocate that and appropriate that. HRTA was made aware of the request. They obviously, with the new fiscal year starting last month, they've been in contact with city staff about what is the process to go through that funding request. I don't know if anyone from HRTA is on tonight. We did make them aware of the meeting, so they were informed. They didn't indicate if they were going to attend or not, but so that's kind of the background.
Anthony, this is Rob. Do we know if any other governmental entities have funded, not funded HRTA since the last discussions we had with them?
That's a good question, Rob. This is Anthony. I do know that I think the city of Waukee was in the process of funding their request. I think the city of Perry was working toward that as well. There might have been another couple of cities on there. On my screen, I do see Brooke with HRTA, and It might be if the mayor would like her to speak, or if there's any questions, we can also turn that over if that's working for you. So.
Yes. Brooke, hold on just a second. So Brooke's here. I just would invite the council, if you have any questions for Brooke, to go ahead. Well, Brooke, why don't you go ahead and if you want to provide some background, you can do that. Council can have some questions. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. I think Anthony kind of covered things pretty, an update pretty well. Just to answer the question, we have received funding from the city of Norwalk, the city of Waukee, the city of Milo. Trying to think. We received an increase from the city of Newton from their past contributions. I think those are primarily the bigger changes that we heard back from.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'd invite the council, if anybody wants to ask Brooke a question, just go ahead and chime in.
Less of a question. First of all, thank you for providing this information and working on a business plan. I'm going to go ahead and make the motion to go ahead and approve this request for funding this year. Next year, before I would vote for it, I would like to see a report, though, Brooke, on your progress towards your business plan, to make sure we're continuing to move forward with meeting the goals that are stated in there. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd move we approve the amount per request and budgeted.
Okay.
This is Dan, I'll second.
That is in order, Rob.
This is Dan, I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
No.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macedon,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve the funding request for $7,364 to HERDA passes. Thank you, Brooke, for attending.
thank you.
Okay, and you can stay on the line if you want to. We're still in new business. Item B, discussion of possible action concerning the Dallas Center annexation moratorium agreement, including setting a public hearing for Tuesday, October 13th at 6 p.m.
It's Bob. So moved.
Okay,
This is Shirley second.
okay. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macedon,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Okay, motion to set the public hearing passes. Still on our new business. Thanks for all your work on that, Anthony. Still on our new business. Item E, consider approval of pay application number 8. This is final for the raw water transmission main.
This Bob. So moved.
This is Dan, second.
Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macedon,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve pay application number 8 passes. Still on new business. Item F, consider approval of resolution 2073, accepting phase 1, part B, section 1, raw water transmission main.
This Bob. So moved.
This is Shirley second.
Okay. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Macedon,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve resolution 2073 passes. Still under new business item G, consider approval of pay application number 4. This is the final for well 5 and 6 drilling.
This
This
Bob.
is Dan.
Oh,
This is Dan, I'll second that.
Motion by Bob, second by Dan. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McAdon,
yes,
Okay, motion to approve the pay application number 4 passes. Still our new business item H, consider approval of resolution 2074, accepting phase 1, part B, sections 2 and 3, wells 5 and 6, drilling and site work.
This is Rob, so moved.
This is Dan, second.
Okay. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McAdon,
yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve resolution 2074 passes. Still on new business. Those are items I, J, and K. These are ones that Anthony said that these are pretty important. So consider approval of resolution 2075 directing the sale and delivery of 4.713 million in water revenue and capital loan notes, anticipated project notes series 2020C for payment of project cost on the water system project.
This Bob, so moved.
Shirley second,
Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McAdon,
yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve resolution 2075 passes. Still on new business item J, consider approval of and filing the form of tax exempt certificate for the water system project.
This Bob, so moved.
This is Rob, I'll second.
Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Christensen,
Yes.
McAdon,
yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve the tax exempt certificate passes. Still on new business item K, consider approval of resolution 2076. This is authorizing the issuance of 4.713 million in water revenue capital loan notes, anticipated project note series 2020C. Sale and delivery. This is the issue. Okay,
This Bob,
This is Dan, I'll move.
Dan moved and Bob seconded. If there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
McAdon,
yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Yes.
Ackerman,
yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve resolution 2076 passes. Still on new business item L, consider approval of ordinance 357, amending the code of ordinances for the city of Adel, Iowa by amending the provisions pertaining to tobacco. This is the first reading.
This
I
is Rob.
entertain a motion to introduce for the first reading ordinance 357. Moved by Rob,
This Bob, second.
second by Bob. Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Miller,
Yes.
Selby,
Sound like Jody might have got
Lost.
cut off. Lost her.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
McAdon,
yes,
So you don't have Jody's vote recorded, do you?
Oh, I think she's back. Jody?
Darcy?
I'm still here, but I'm gonna have to log out because I have no more battery left on my laptop or my phone. This is Jody. I apologize.
Okay,
I'm sorry, but I mean, I don't have any questions or issues with the remaining items on the,
yeah, after this one, we've only got 2 more.
I'm good. Sorry.
Okay. Very good, Jody.
Thanks.
That's fine. Hopefully you get
Bye.
electricity soon.
I hope so.
Okay, so,
Mr. Mayor, I would move, we waive the second and third readings and adopt ordinance number 357.
Okay, that's in order.
Second.
Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Miller,
Yes.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macadon.
yes,
Okay, motion passes. Still under new business, item M, consider approval of ordinance 358, amending the code of ordinance of the city of Adel, Iowa by amending provisions pertaining to animal control. This is the first reading.
So
This is
moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Bob, second by Rob. Okay, if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macadon,
yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, motion to introduce and approve the first reading of ordinance 358 passes.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead, Bob.
I move we waive the second, third reading and adopt.
Okay, that is in order, Bob.
And I'll second.
Okay,
I was looking at my book.
okay, okay. Then if there's no discussion, we'll vote on that motion.
Ackerman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Macadon,
yes,
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, motion to waive the second, third reading and adopt ordinance 358 passes. Still under new business, item N. Discussion of possible action on the resolution 2061 appointing representative to the Central Iowa Regional Housing Authority Board of Directors for a 3-year term. Anthony, no applicants?
No, this is Anthony. I don't think we've received any applicants. We've had this advertised, I think in Adel Living, or at least on our website, posted at City Hall, done a couple rounds of Facebook. So we'll try again for next month.
Okay. Okay, very good. Well, if there's no other business, I guess city's slowly recovering, and just appreciate all the city staff's hard work out there, and there's a lot of trees piled up. So,
Mayor,
yeah.
Mayor, this is Christine. Sorry, this
Yes.
council does need to set the date for continuing the public hearing and considering the sale of property for
Thank you
restoration property.
You just earned your keep tonight, Christine. So anyway, okay, does it look like next Tuesday? I forget, did Jody reply? I mean, did she?
Yeah, Shirley was the only one that I think didn't reply, and Tuesday was the only one that worked for everybody.
Okay.
that works for me too.
Okay, then we'll set next Tuesday, August 18th, 6 p.m. It'll probably be a Zoom meeting. And we need to make sure, I don't know if all the folks that were on for the public hearing are still on here, but certainly Tim Miracle and Kathy Jorgensen, who submitted questions, we want to make sure that we personally let them know. And actually, I can do that. I will send them an email to let them know, because they'll get the word out to folks that they've been talking to. And I'll indicate it'll be posted on the website, the meeting and our website and everything. So thank you, Christine. And thanks everyone for your patience. I thought we had a good public hearing on our first one, and that will continue. And if we get any questions, we'll make sure that those are addressed at our next meeting next Tuesday. Okay, so if there's nothing else for the good of the cause, I'll consider the meeting adjourned. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.